I have to admit, when the ChatSpot stuff, when it first came out, it wasn't good. And to be honest, I've got my criticisms today as well. Like, some of the stuff just doesn't work, but the stuff that's working is so promising.
How better to introduce Breeze AI than to ask Breeze AI to produce a podcast? So you would create a full episode
About Breeze AI.
About Breeze AI, the pros, the cons, the use cases, the problems, and the real life examples of how it should be used. I'm not saying it's like the best podcast where you've got tones and you've got some form of interaction where it's like unpredictable on how it's going to go, but it's pretty good. It's like an audiobook.
It's pretty good. To be honest, it's so good that after looking at it, I said to you, like, it's good and more than good enough for, we're going to take that transcript and turn it into a blog post.
I think so,
It's
yeah.
more than...
It's designed for your customers, not your prospects. So therefore, it's for support.
Yeah, but I want to use it for my customers.
It's for you're using the wrong purpose.
See, now you're fanboying. Now you're fanboying.
I'm
That
fanboying
sounds like an
because I was
excuse.
still blown away by it.
No, that's an excuse. I don't care whether it's for your customers. It still should answer. So if I'm a customer,
Sure. But
it's still a bad answer. Welcome to Inbound Buzz, the Inbound edition. We have an exciting episode all about whether HubSpot Breeze AI is worth trying. So whether you're a seasoned HubSpot user or dipping your toes into the world of digital marketing, today's topic is bound to pique your interest and provide valuable insights. Strap in because we're deep diving into one of the most talked about features in the HubSpot ecosystem, Breeze AI. This episode promises to be a game changer in how you understand and utilize AI within your HubSpot. So Semi, you know the interesting thing about that?
No, what is it?
HubSpot's AI wrote that.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Right?
That's pretty good.
And guys, that's what
That's
we're talking
impressive.
about today. So we wanted to start the episode with HubSpot Breeze AI's intro. Now, I'll be completely honest, we had to tweak it a little bit and maybe it does sound a little bit scripted, but AI did half of the work.
Yeah, we were really dissing on HubSpot's AI before, a couple of weeks ago, until they released this stuff, and it's getting better and better and better. So
100%.
There you
So
go.
unless you've been,
Go figure.
if you're not from the HubSpot ecosystem, this might be news, but if you are from the HubSpot ecosystem, you'd be remiss not to know that Inbound 2024 just finished or just happened, depending on when you're sort of listening to this. And as they always do, they released some big features. And
yeah,
no surprises, AI was a big cornerstone of that, essentially.
yeah. I think it's good to spend some time on those features because there's a lot in the ecosystem now.
Today, Semi's absolutely right. We're just going to focus on Breeze AI because honestly, that's probably maybe 60, 70% of the updates anyway. But it's so, rather than sort of giving you just a list that you can find anywhere, we thought we'd share some of our examples, what we've been playing with, and how you can actually leverage Breeze AI.
Just before we start in, I'm just really, I've been playing around with it. It's so good how HubSpot's weave the AI components within its system. So it just feels very natural to start using it now.
I have to admit, when the ChatSpot stuff, when it first came out,
it
wasn't good. And to be honest, I've got my criticisms today as well. Some of the stuff just doesn't work, but the stuff that's working is so promising. But let's get straight into it. So
it's still good to get you going, but not to finish you off, right?
100%. I think this is what's going to separate HubSpot from a lot of the people chipping at their toes, like Go High Level and some of the other, competitors in the space. But we're talking about Breeze AI. And Breeze AI, it's essentially the rebrand. Hopefully they don't rebrand more after this because HubSpot does this sometimes. They did this with HubSpot CMS and then they called it HubSpot Websites and they do this. So hopefully they just settle on the name. But you might already be familiar with things like ChatSpot and things like that. So it's consolidating all of those, rebranding it into Breeze AI. And it has 3 key components, which we're going to talk about today. Breeze Copilot, Breeze Agents, and Breeze Intelligence. And Semi's absolutely right. It's all blended inside of the HubSpot platform.
Yeah, so each of these obviously do a very specific core function within HubSpot. And so Breeze Copilot, for example, is like the chat GPT of its prompting engine. And it's good, but obviously I think you play around with it a little bit more than I have in terms of data. But yeah, share us your thoughts on.
Yeah, we'll start with Copilot. You're right. So if you're familiar with, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with ChatGPT, then you're probably listening to the wrong show, right? But very similar prompting type of interface. And we tried a few things, right? So I asked, for example, how many deals were added in 2024 compared to 2023? And it gave me some really good data. Like some of the stuff is hit and miss, but what it did wasn't, and you're just listening to this, obviously, but it gave me on the x-axis Q1 2024, sorry, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then it had 2 graphs for every quarter. So I can see here for Q1, there was, in this demo portal, there was 17 deals last year, but for the same period, it was 35 deals this year for Q1. And then so on and so forth. So that was really, really cool. And it took me 2 seconds.
So just to kind of add in here, it's not just data they just pulled out of nowhere. It's your data in your portal, right? So that's the advantage of using like Breeze AI versus like ChatGPT, because like it reads your data, it analyzes your data, and then it gives you the reports and information that you need for the question that you've asked for, right?
Exactly. So that was one user case, right? How many deals were added this year compared to last year? You have to be careful. It's not as smart as ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is very good with semantics. It's very good at trying to understand what you're trying to say in conversational language. With this, you have to be a little bit more specific. That's why I said how many deals were added in 2024 compared to 2023, as opposed to how did we do this year
compared to last year
by quarter.
Yeah.
It would not have got that, you know, but that's okay. The next one was really cool. So I did this on an actual prospect, and then I also tested it with some other businesses as well. But so I did, for example, research this company. Now, the beautiful thing is ChatGPT, HubSpot Copilot, or Breeze Copilot rather, it has some prompts to get you going. It's like, try some of these prompts.
I do like that though.
Yeah.
It makes
you don't know what to ask.
Yeah, you don't know what to ask for. So it gives you the start of a prompt.
100%. So I did one of those. It was like research this company using outside data sources. So I put in Red Pandas, right? It says full service digital, based in Sydney. We offer these services such as inbound marketing, content, SEO, Google ads, social media, webinars, video, podcasts. You're roughly right. With 20 employees, they operate here and they use these following technologies: HubSpot, Tag Manager, Office 365, and they're active on LinkedIn. All very accurate, right? I put in another client who they've got close to 100 people, and it said they had like 10 people. So it's like you were saying that before, Semi, before the show. Like, don't rely on it, but it should get you going as a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. You can almost, like, if you have an actual prospecting call, you can also like validate this information with the client, right? It's a point of conversation, you know. So you can be like, hey, you know, you have 10 clients, or 100, you know what I mean, like, or 10 employees or more, you know, like you can validate those questions with the client. It's a good place to start.
The last one, which was really, really cool, right? So for this one, I'm sharing my screen, and I put in here, prepare me for a meeting with a company called Tree Life, right? I've changed the data, right? But a Tree Life. And literally, if you guys can see my screen, and if you want to check out what I'm looking at, visit redpandas.com.au/EP170 or 170. And it literally says Tree Life is an opportunity in your CRM. It's created on Feb 8th. It's managed by Moby. They have 50 employees. Your last engagement was on the date. Okay, great. Key points for the meeting, right? So remember, I asked it, help me prepare for a meeting with these guys. It said 3 key points: life cycle stage opportunity, recent engagements, multiple emails discussing case studies, integration costs, and HubSpot onboarding. Focus areas: addressing long sales cycles, integration with Cordell, and HubSpot onboarding options. Recommendations: emphasize your solutions for long sales cycles and integration capabilities. Be prepared to discuss the HubSpot onboarding process with and potential discounts, right? Pretty good stuff. And then I go on and I'm like, okay, summarize this deal for me. And then it summarized it for me. Okay, it's at this stage, it's worth $10,000. It has a 40% probability of closing.
Wow.
Right? So on and so forth. Now, this was the interesting thing. So you're right, Semi, like you said before, if you're logging all the stuff, this is the thing. This is why AI with HubSpot and any CRM is really powerful compared to any other utilization.
Yeah.
Because it's using your data.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like Office as well. Like, Microsoft also has a leg up. Google also has a leg up. Because if you're using the data, the biggest thing with AI is getting your data in, and people just aren't set up that way.
Yeah.
They don't have the systems. They don't have the infrastructure, most businesses anyway. So if your CRM, if you're using it as you're supposed to, like I did in this case, that's why I had to change the client's name here, because the actual real client, I'm logging all my emails. I'm logging all my calls, all my notes. It's figured all that out. And that's pretty decent.
Yeah, I got to admit, man, it is like, it gives it an advantage for everyone that is using a CRM, especially like HubSpot, to then ask the tough questions, to then be able to make business decisions. I think that's where the biggest advantage of it is. Like, because it takes time for you to build out the reports. It takes time for you to know what you're doing in the CRM.
Yeah.
Like I have this problem all the time with clients when we're going through it. It's like, how do I do this, Semi? What's the best way of doing that? Like instead of coming to me with these questions, you can technically start asking Breeze AI,
Breeze
or Copilot, right? And then get the results and then see, if it actually makes sense or you've achieved it or not. Dude, that's just saving you all the email correspondence back and forth and all the drama that you would technically have or engaging someone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our services are useless and it should be replaced by, Copilot, but it gives you an advantage for you to understand your data so you can make business decisions properly.
Yeah.
I think that's the advantage of it.
It's not about using AI for sales. It's about you using your data, like putting in the data inputs that you need. So things like HubSpot, Breeze, Copilot AI, whatever you want to call it, are able to give you AI-based insights.
100%. Then you know what? The other thing that came to my mind was because before Breeze AI, I was using Copilot for a bit just to kind of get data because we're trying this cold outreach stuff, bits and pieces. And actually, I didn't tell you this, but actually, I jumped on our CRM and I was asking it to give me reports that I would normally segment data with. So I was like, hey, can you give me, based on our CRM, who's the best performing industry? Right. And it will spit out a report. Like, okay, great, copy that report into a dashboard. It's so good in that sense where it allows you to do the things that you'll otherwise have to go to a custom report builder and then figure it out. And then you'll get frustrated. I know the custom report builder is like, you're either really good at it or you're really crap at it.
Yeah.
But it gives you that.
It'll do it for you.
It gives you that start,
And this stuff, I like this because you can literally say to your sales team, because when these features first come out, you're like, oh, who's going to use ChatSpot?
Yeah.
You can literally say, okay, when you prepare for a meeting, here's the playbook. This is what you write.
Yeah.
Help me prepare for a meeting.
Yeah.
And if you put your data in there, it's going to give you all the key insights.
Yeah, you do sales. How many hours would that save you from would you use it now?
Yeah, I mean, but like, for example, for me, it was impressive because I don't have to go through my notes.
Yeah.
So I know all of that. It's nothing new to me, but that's going to save me 15, 20 minutes. And if I pass this on to a coworker, it's instant now.
Yeah, add that onto maybe 10 calls. That's
The last thing I'll say on this, and then we'll move on, is it's really interesting that it said 40%. Because Sammy, I'll be honest with you, this particular deal I'm working, it's not a high percentage.
Yeah,
if you asked me as a human, Moby, what are the chances of you closing this deal? I would have said 50%. I would have said exactly 50%. So the fact that it's mentioned 40%, even though I've got all these touch points, it's felt the sentiment is really impressive. But anyway, let's move on. We've got a lot to cover today. Something you've been playing with, right? So we moved from, what do we call it? Breeze Copilot.
Yes.
Right? The prompting engine to Breeze AI. Content and content agents.
Or they've got agents, right? It's like Breeze agents or AI agents. So this is not a new phenomenon, but I know Salesforce have been also mentioning this, and this has been the next drive. So the whole point of agents are for them to do just a little bit more than a direction, do the action, right? Rather than just give you a response like an ChatGPT, because ChatGPT just gives you a response and you take that response and do it, right? With the AI agents, it's a little bit more than that. So it actually does the work for you and then gives you the opportunity to then edit and create in bits and pieces.
You know what? I just thought of this. The best analogy for this is with ChatGPT, you've got the prompting and then you've got the custom GPTs. That's what it's like. It's like a custom GPT. It's purpose-built for something specific.
So it's like custom GPT, which then gives you direction, which then you would technically in it before the features that came out of HubSpot, you would then put it into make.com or Zapier to then configure that prompt to then use it to then do the action that you needed to do in another CRM or another service, right? That's the trend line people doing now. I know some agencies that will charge $2,000 or $3,000 to do that work because it requires multi-step process. It requires some form of coding bits and pieces. That's replacing this now with an AI agent that does the job for you.
It's like custom GPT that then needs to do something external.
Yeah, 100%.
But now it's all in one.
It's all in one thing.
I think if you talk about examples, we'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I did a couple tests. This is not new. I know content. So they've introduced a couple of things. It's like content agents, custom agent, which is more focused around Service Hub stuff. And there was one more. One more agent. I kind of forgot the name of it. But yeah, I just want to focus on the content agent for the time being because that's the one I really played around with. So I did two things. Number one was I was like, I've got a product idea. Can you please create me a landing page from scratch? The cool thing about this was you use our brand guide. That's the one that we crafted out. And if you have an ICP, ideal customer profile, it uses that to then craft the landing page for your business using the data and stuff that you would want. So you ask the customer and then it would produce the landing page for you. I was blown away by it because I was like, okay, cool. That's like 80% of the job done. Because you don't have to go through a theme. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to write the text. It's already done it for you. So
normally what you do, and everyone knows this, you have a vision in your head.
Yeah.
And then you have templates.
Yeah.
So then you go through and you pick a template that's closest match to what you're looking for. And then you try to put a rock between a hard place, like a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you might need to, maybe it fits.
Yeah.
Or you have to make a compromise, or you have to ask a coder. You're like, look, 80% of this I could use, but I need to code something there.
Yeah.
So you just saying that, and if you've ever felt the pain that I felt doing this in the past, you just saying that skips all of that.
It skips all of that. Like,
because it's getting it close 100%. For you.
I'm not saying 80%. I think instead of, you might need to add a little bit more, but I think instead of adding, you need to deduct more.
Yeah.
Because
you're not digging around.
So like this landing page that I had FAQs, question, problem solutions, like it had all the stuff in there. There's like a whole bunch in there, right? And I was like, wow, pretty impressed with it. So it's about deducting out of that, landing page, depending on the use case that landing page was for, right? So yeah, I was quite impressed because it went into like, how is ChatGPT going to do that?
Yeah.
Right? You're going to use another third-party app that uses ChatGPT, then prompt information, and you get frustrated along because it doesn't have the right ICP or doesn't have your branding guide that you were using.
Yeah.
Right? As proper use case. Now, the other thing that I tried out, which obviously we played the intro for, was I was like thinking about this episode. I was like, okay, cool. How better to introduce Breeze AI than to ask Breeze AI to produce a podcast? So we would create a full episode
about Breeze AI.
About Breeze AI. So we actually created a full episode of 20, I think it's like 25-minute or 23-minute, like an episode completely done by Breeze AI that talks about the pros, the cons, the use cases, the problems, and real life examples of how it should be used, and then spit this out.
It was pretty good, man.
Honestly, just to give you a time frame, I did this before like our show. Maybe it took 25 minutes to complete. 25 minutes with minimal prompting, and then it actually does text to word as well. So produce it out. I'm not saying it's like the best podcast where, you've got tones and you've got some form of interaction where it's like unpredictable on how it's going to go, but it's pretty good. It's like an audiobook.
It's pretty good. To be honest, it's so good that after looking at it, I said to you, like, so this is not even like it's good and more than good enough for, we're going to take that transcript and turn it into a blog post.
I think so,
it's more than good enough for that.
Yeah.
So for a podcast, like I said some of the stuff and I'm like, oh, people don't talk like that.
Yeah.
But
you had to edit a couple of stuff.
I had to edit it, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Not that bad.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's
if you were to do the same thing with ChatGPT, you have to like really. I know our intention wasn't to compare ChatGPT with Breeze AI because they're obviously two different things, but it's such a leg up.
So moving off of that, so we discussed what did we discuss so far in the content side? Podcasts, landing pages. I also played with case studies. Would that fall into here?
Yeah.
That would fall into.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch in there, man. There's like so many in there. But
so this one that I did, and I'll share my screen for this one. This is one that I use.
It seems like we're fanboying like HubSpot Breeze AI right now. That's what it sounds like. We're like,
honestly, I'm the critical one. Like you're like, oh, it's so good. I'm like, look, calm down. Like
it seems like you turned around, man. What's going on?
But no, I think like some of this, I do have my criticisms in a second. But so the case study one, this one really, really surprised me. So very similar to what you said with the landing page. So I used a client of ours portal to a shout out to Penrith Solar. I'm looking at this now. And there's no customer data in these, nothing sensitive or anything. I literally put in, create me a case study on someone who got their bills down to $0 using Penrith Solar and using batteries. And Semi, it did the template for me. Like it literally did the template for me. So it's got the summary. Now, if you can't see this, But if you're looking at my screen share, you will notice that it actually got the summary up top. 4 key points: 100% electricity deduction, 15-year warranty, cheap energy independence, high customer satisfaction. So like really skimmable data, like the principles that we've spent in digital marketing 10, 15 years to master, to make skimmable content, right? You do it like this, and then you have a quote, and then you have a story. It's done that, the challenge, the solution. So I was like, whoa, this is really like, it's getting to the point now where if you don't utilize this stuff in your market, say you're an agency, if you don't use this for your clients, you are going to get left behind. If you're a marketer and you don't use this for yourself, you are going to get left behind.
Yeah, it's just too much good quality content in a short period amount of time that you can produce.
Yeah.
And that's like speed, you know? What is it? Money follows speed, something like that.
Right, I haven't read that book. I know
but it sounds good.
It sounds good.
It sounds good, right?
So, okay, let me get to one of my criticisms, right? So when this stuff first came out, so like last year's Inbound, they was talking about AI too. And I was waiting for this. This is the key thing I was waiting for. The ability because for someone like, if you follow They Ask You Answer, right? So at Red Pandas, we follow They Ask You Answer. We write 3 articles per week. Our website is a gold mine of data. And we've always sort of said this, people are like, how do you prepare for AI? Well, like do the basics, write articles that customers have questions, concerns, fears about, that people are searching for with keyword research, write that stuff, create the videos that are engaging. Where do you think AI is going to feed that from? From text and video content. So do the basics, right? So anyway, what I was waiting for was a chat bot that if you put it on your website and you ask a question, it will scour your website and give you answers based on your content on your website. For someone like Red Pandas, that's great because we have so much content. And then I can say to clients like, see, this is why, again, AI is based on the data you feed it.
It's correct.
Just give it good data and let the AI interface take care of itself. You don't need to build this stuff. It wasn't that great. Like, I'll be honest, so what did I sort of put, right? Now, I'll be completely honest. Some of the stuff is not bad. So I put in, and then you sort of educated me on something, right? So I'm sharing my screen here again. I said, how much do you charge for onboarding? So what it is, if you can't see this, imagine a chatbot that's connected to your website. And now that chatbot uses the website, the content of your website to feed its answers. And I said, how much do you charge for onboarding? It said, I'm not actually sure, right? And I said, do you offer HubSpot onboarding? It said, absolutely. It gave me a great answer. It's like, boom, boom, boom. This is what we do. Here's a link for more information, which was really cool. HubSpot versus Salesforce. What do you recommend? I know we've got content on that. It said, look, I'm not actually sure. Now, one of the gotchas that you educated me on, maybe you share it, like, because I just shared the website. Yeah.
So it's what we're talking about is the custom Breeze custom AI. So the whole point of this AI is to
customer agent, Breeze customer agent,
customer agent. It's designed for your customers, not your prospects. So therefore, it's for support.
Yeah, but I want to use it for my customers.
You're using the wrong purpose.
See, now you're fanboying. You're fanboying.
I'm fanboying
that sounds like
because
an excuse.
I was still blown away by it.
No, that's an excuse. I don't care whether it's for your customers. It still should answer. So if I'm a customer,
sure. But
it's still a bad answer.
Yeah, but it depends on the content that you're feeding it, right? Like blog posts are very different to support related content. Because support related content.
I disagree.
Support related content.
I disagree. A lot of our business, a big percentage of our business, double digits, comes from repeat customers, right? Yeah. So I would want my customers to be using this as well. And we know this, right? Price is the number one thing people look for when they actually go on a website. It should be able to nail those queries.
Yeah.
It should be able to nail them.
Sure.
Right?
I think it's more about the data input.
Here's the gotcha.
I think it's data input. Like, honestly, I think it's data input.
So I'm not just fanboying. So you can believe me when I'm like loving HubSpot and also critiquing HubSpot, because it should be better than this. It really should. But I'm not upset at that because this is just the start. Yeah. This is amazing for the start.
Yeah.
Now, the little gotcha and caveat is this. We don't use HubSpot for our website. Yeah. We use WordPress. And most people who use HubSpot use WordPress or a third-party website. Yeah. Most people do. It's like less than 50% who use HubSpot CMS. If you use HubSpot websites and you use the knowledge base and you do all of that, then it's a lot better.
Yeah.
But the gotcha is if you're like us and you use WordPress, you have to individually add the URL, which you taught me, Semi. You're like, okay, well, maybe you just put the homepage. You're supposed to individually add pages. So I did that. I added all the HubSpot pages, or like a small percentage of them, and it gave me a lot of robust answers. But the gotcha is that every time you create content, and you made a good point, it's not that hard. Like, say you loaded everything in once, or you got a VA to do it, then every time you create a new article or a page, you could actually add to your workflow to add a URL to HubSpot.
Just to be on that note as well, if you do update your website or update the page, and your website, your URL doesn't change, then it auto syncs it again. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
right? It
But
auto syncs it again.
Even though I actually loaded a page that had our pricing on it, so like this is what we do because all of our pricing we follow the Ask Your Answer. It's all transparent. Everything we charge is online, transparent for the world. I copied and pasted those URLs. It still struggled with it.
Yeah, Mose, like this is where I want to push back on a little bit. This because like our website has got dot points and then a price at the bottom, right? If it was like an article with like writings and then justifying, like if it was a text heavy explanation and stuff, I reckon it would have performed much better.
See, that's
more of
blaming
support.
us, not the GPT, right? It's not smart enough because ChatGPT is smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not critiquing it, but it needs to be better because we're not going to create content that way just for this thing to read it.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like we're going to load
Yeah.
content that's already there.
Yeah, fair enough. I also won't trust ChatGPT like content being fed to me, so this one's a little bit better.
Well, honestly, guys, you listen up. I know from
Be the
we know
judge.
this from
We're gonna be going back
Semi
and
is a
forth a fair bit.
mad fanboy. We have to move on. I'm right, you're wrong. People want pricing when they go on websites. We know that. That's a fact. Let's move on.
All right. I think, yeah. Is that it?
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like, to be honest, that's probably, we really wanted to, we initially wanted to do all the updates from,
Yeah, it's too much.
it's way, way, way too much. We
Yeah.
spent half an hour and we've just skimmed the surface on Breeze, right?
Just to go over it, I think there's a few things like Content Hub relaunch was also part of the Inbound conference. And then talking about high sensitivity data and how they manage that stuff. And then obviously the stuff that we talked about, which is all the AI tools and functions in HubSpot. We didn't even like go into detail of that. There's so much stuff. So
there's a lot of stuff, but that's the point too. I think you can get really overwhelmed. This stuff is useful stuff. Like we want to focus on all the useful stuff that comes out of Breeze AI. And but yeah, guys, look, Semi, it's a real pleasure. Absolutely. Hopefully you guys got some value. And we'll join you guys again for another episode of Inbound Buzz.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Inbound Buzz. Learn anything? Return the favor by spreading the word. Want to make your mark in digital? Need help with your digital strategy, inbound, and marketing automation efforts? Then visit redpandas.com.au and be sure to tune in next time for another Inbound Buzz hit.